I think we got technology figured out today.
Possibly. We'll have to go back and
Thank you.
check.
Thanks, Annie. So welcome everybody. This is part 3 of 5 in our Managing Triggers series.
Yeah.
Today we're going to explore why triggers happen and how you can decrease how often they're happening and how intense they are when they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is so important because understanding why it's happening helps you have more control, more choice about what to do about it. It empowers you to prevent it from happening, really, because you know why it's happening. And then be able to shift how you're experiencing and responding to those moments when you are triggered.
If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Dr. Jenny Wallig.
And I'm Coach Calvin O'Seeley.
And we are the creators of Powerful Love Relationship Coaching, where we support committed couples to save and transform their struggling relationships so they can keep their family together and experience the happiness, love, and partnership that they desire.
Yeah, so this is part 3.
Yep.
So part 1, let's go back just as a recap.
Quick recap.
The first part of our series, we talked about what not to do when you find yourself triggered. And that's really to just not believe the thoughts and the stories that are going through your head when you get triggered. Like a primal brain cannot be trusted.
Yes.
In part 2, which was our cruise edition, which you may not have caught because it had limited availability. But we shared what to do and gave you 3 different options for how to more effectively respond when those triggers happen. So
go ahead.
Did you want me to do?
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So today, part 3, we're going to spend some time talking about why your triggers happen and share some simple but powerful, well, a simple and powerful way that you can to use, right? That you can use to decrease the
words sometimes.
I know.
You know what we're saying though, right?
Hopefully. But that you can use to decrease both like the frequency, but also the intensity of the times when you are triggered.
So let's talk first about why triggers happen, right? Triggers happen because something in your outside world or context comes into your senses and your brain, your nervous system identifies that thing as somehow threatening to you.
Yeah.
Right? So when you feel threatened, or when you might not even realize you're feeling threatened, but like when your brain and nervous system, this happens so fast, when it identifies something as a threat, it primes your nervous system for fight, flight, freeze, or appease. Okay. So you move into some form of a survival response. These exist on a continuum, right? At the most extreme, we become really flooded. That's when we're like the most triggered, maybe like having panic or really, really upset and exploding, or totally shut down and numb. But there's also a lower end of the spectrum where you're just like irritated or frustrated or annoyed or resentful or feeling hurt, right? That too is a triggering, right? Is an activation of your nervous system. And I know we use the word trigger a lot, and sometimes it's used specifically in response to trauma. In this context, we are using it very loosely, very broadly, I'll say, as like anything that's activating your nervous system. Okay. Anything that is like creating discomfort in your body because something has been perceived as a threat. And one of the things that's really important to realize when we're talking about the like why triggers happen is that 90% of the why is about you, my friend.
Yes.
It's not the thing that happened. It's not the thing that your partner did. That's 10%, right? Like, yes, that was the stimulus that activated, but the experience of trigger is about you and your lenses, your history, your own traumas, your unhealed parts,
the
stories, the perceptions that your mind, your brain, your nervous system, often, likely without your consciousness or choice, is, assigning to that 10% thing that happened. Right?
Yeah, the dots that connect.
Yes. And so it's really like when we talk about, or when we're thinking about the why that we get activated in our nervous system, boiled down, put really simply, it's all about the perception, the story that you're telling, the conclusion that some part of you, some part of your nervous system has made about what has happened,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a thought, that's a story, that's an association that's happening. So that's the why,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now let's talk about what can you do about it.
Yeah. What can you do? Like, when you become triggered, or like, it's really more like the awareness, right?
Mhm.
That you're triggered or activated, that you have the best opportunity to intervene.
Mhm.
And when you recognize that, one powerful question you can ask to yourself is, what story am I, or is my brain, making up about this?
And I love the words like making up about this,
Mhm.
even though I notice if you have some resistance to those words. The first time I heard them, I did too. But, and like, sit with it, because when we say like we're making up a story, it acknowledges the fact that like it's not capital T truth,
Mhm.
right? It's not like actually real. It's our perception. And the truth is, like, we are making up stories. We make up
Yeah.
stories all the time. We live in made up stories.
Yes, stories are powerful.
In our lives, because that's just how our brains work, my friends. Or your brain wants to make every experience a part of a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we relive our memories, it's how we communicate with one another, it's how we think about ourselves and our histories, right? So there's a story, there's a meaning making process that's happening all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a meaning making, right? Not a meaning that is objectively. It's a meaning making that's happening on your internal system.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask yourself that question, what's that question again?
What story am I making up about this?
What story am I making up about this? When you
Or
ask
blame it on your
yourself,
brain.
or yeah, or what story is my brain making up about this?
Yeah.
Sure. Like if you don't want to fully
Because it's a part.
feel like you've decided that.
Yeah.
Then you are taking ownership of the fact that it's something that's happening within you, right? That the trigger is occurring because, like, in response to an association, a conclusion, a story that some part of you has made up about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And when you acknowledge that it's a story that you've made up, you've instantly stepped into the power to change it.
Yeah.
Because if you can make it up one way, you can make it up another way.
Exactly. Infinite ways.
Right? And so this is it's really simple, but don't dismiss it, because it's a really powerful like shift. It's such a small distinction, but it can change everything in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
So as like in that awareness, you now have the power to decide.
Yep, you have a choice.
Something different.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What are you going to decide this could actually mean? Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of power in just making a decision. It's
Mm-hmm.
the catalyst to basically anything,
Mm-hmm.
to doing anything, to choosing anything, to experiencing anything. It all starts with a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And decisions are really just a thought that you decided was true, or decided you were going to act on.
Yeah.
So
Or you may not even consciously have decided it. Like some part of your
totally.
brain decided, like, oh, this thought, I think that's true. And then all of a sudden you've made that decision and it's become your belief, and it feels like capital T true.
Yeah, a lot of us are operating from
we all are.
programming.
Like we all are.
I mean, some of us are being a little more, trying to be more conscious to
trying,
when we're not.
And yet
Yeah.
still happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so with decisions,
Mm-hmm.
it means you can also decide something else.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You have that ability.
Right.
Here, if you need me to give you it.
Yeah, decisions are powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Like when we've decided something, when you decide, like our coach recently was talking to us about the fact that the root word of, or the root meaning of decide, is to like close off all other options.
Mhm.
So if you decide, for example, that my partner really does care about me, or my partner is always trying their best, or I am worthy, If you decide that, the act of decision closes all off other options, other ways of making sense of this. So this, if I am inherently worthy and my partner does care about me, then the reason they acted this way must be something else, right? Not about them not caring about me, not about me being unworthy in this example, right? And it may be those previous stories, those previous beliefs, those associations that showed up that was creating such activation. Now you're in a place of curiosity. What could it be about? Why did this happen? This is a movement from like autopilot responsiveness where you're at the mercy of your triggers or your buttons, like a little marionette, and the world around you is like pulling your strings.
Yeah, so helpless.
Now, like, you are in consciousness, you get to decide how you want to respond, how you want to make sense of your world and your life experiences, how you want to story what's happening in your relationship. So this curiosity and this one question, like, what story am I, or what story is my brain making up about this, is a game changer.
Yeah.
What else do we want to say? This is
It's
simple.
not easy.
No, it's simple, but it's not easy, right?
Yeah. And especially at first, just like learning anything new, you might have some resistance to it, like going to the gym. You might suck at it at first because, when we're beginners, we don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally rewiring neural pathways.
Yeah.
And that takes time. It takes practice. It takes repetition.
Yeah, and commitment, dedication, the decision. So, but when you get really good at it, it's going to empower you to have greater control over your nervous system and be less reactive and more able to receive messages and less at the mercy of being triggered because they said the thing that like triggers you.
And when you do get triggered, as you inevitably will, because you're human,
having a human experience,
you'll also like be able to remember somewhere in there, somewhere sooner, what's really going on. And as soon as you remember, like, oh yeah, this is a story that my brain is making up, this is an association, it's not necessarily true, I'm being triggered because I'm perceiving a threat here. Is this really a threat? You're bringing some critical consciousness to it. You're getting curious about it, and you're looking for another way to understand it. Like, all of that is going to not only decrease the intensity, but it's going to help you move out of that activated state a lot faster, right? And so now, not only are you like less likely every time you do this, less likely to be triggered by a thing, but now your nervous system activation isn't as extreme, and you're able to move through it and reconnect and repair with your partner a lot more quickly.
Yeah. We had a client who would have really big reactions to certain subjects in his relationship and really to his partner. Yeah. And he was convinced that he had like no control over these reactions. It was just like so automatic.
Right. It just like happened in his body, and it really like took over and took him out of commission. He was so distressed.
Yeah. Which also, right, it made it nearly impossible for him and his partner to talk about the subjects that were especially triggering, which were also like really important to like the functionality of their relationship.
These were the topics they needed to be talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But eventually, he took the risk of believing that maybe the stories that he was telling himself were not entirely capital T true. And he really just started to more continually make the decision and start believing that it was actually possible to, engage about these really triggering topics, and not have such a activating response.
And he did. It was amazing. Like that, it was such a quick turn. Or like, I was actually shocked. Like, I understand this stuff and I believe in this stuff.
Yeah.
But we were both like, just, that one decision where he really was like, really was able to hear that he can respond differently, that these are just stories, and that the way that he's perceiving what happened and where things are at isn't capital T true, and he can make a different decision about it. And he can learn how to do something, like learn how to respond differently in his nervous system. And then all of a sudden, it seemed like overnight. It was probably, just a couple of days after we had a really powerful conversation around this, that he was able to have a productive conversation, like really productive conversation with his partner. And I remember getting messages from his partner talking about like the conversation that they had and how he did and how it went and the loving space he was able to hold for her to like talk about these things. I was like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me right now? Like all those years of suffering and then now
One
like
powerful decision.
one powerful decision and you're able to finally talk about this. It was so transformational. And again, like, don't dismiss this as an easy idea because it's simple, but it's profound. And it really can transform things in your relationship. And for this couple we're talking about, like, this is what they needed to turn things around in their relationship. They would not have been able to make it if they hadn't been able to have these conversations and shift the way that his nervous system was responding when those conversations were brought up. Right? So it's saved their relationship to be able to do this.
Yeah.
So, sorry, did you want to jump in?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say, like, this conversation that we're having today really speaks to the power of having awareness and then having choice. Okay? It is this, we call it the power formula. Awareness equals choice equals power. You may have heard us talking about it at some other point. We talk about it sometimes. But this idea, right, like, is central to the teaching that we do in our program. So listen, if this is resonating with you and you are ready to make your relationship better, to decide, like, to stop having the same patterns, the same activation, the same trigger response and escalation in your relationship.
And breakdowns.
Right, and communication breakdowns and unresolved issues.
Yeah.
Listen up, lean forward. We have a really important invitation for you.
Yeah. We have a few spots open in our high touch Back from the Brink coaching intensive. So this is for people who are really struggling in their relationship and considering divorce or breaking up or separating, at least, because nothing else that they've tried has worked or is making things better. But they also know that what they really want, what they prefer, if they had a magic wand, is to make things better together.
Yeah. So this is not a program for people who want to break up. This is a program for people who want to be together. They just can't figure out how.
Yeah.
And they're reaching the point of, like, wondering if it's even possible and worrying that it's even possible, thinking that the only way to, like, happiness and relief is maybe not being with this partner. It's not true. We can help you get back there. And if that's you, this is for you.
Yeah. So it's a 90-day high touch intensive, which means that the two of us are working really closely with the two of you, both individually, but also as a team.
So that the two of you can become a team again.
Yeah.
Working together.
Right. So a lot of the work is, focused on you all as individuals, but we really help you understand what isn't working in kind of what your aspect of your 50% of the relationship. And we help to teach you some really powerful tools to really create some meaningful and lasting change within yourself, but also between the two of you.
Right. And so when Cal says, that it's focused on you as individuals, like, I just want to clarify what that means is that we're looking at your part of the dance.
Yeah, you're 50%.
You're 50% of what's not working in the relationship. And not at, like, just trying to change your partner, because you don't actually have power there, right? You'll notice in all of the work that we do, the presentations and the series and the live streams that we do, we're looking at, like, what you can do, how you can shift what's happening within you so that you have greater ability to influence what's happening between you two. And that is, like, one of the key distinctions in the work that we do as compared to most other coaching and certainly therapy work, that's not taking the time to help each of you really learn about yourselves and do your own healing work and develop new skills in a safe space where you talking about the thoughts and feelings and those wild, insane thoughts that we talked about in like part one,
Mm-hmm.
like if you try to say all of the stuff that's going on inside you in front of your partner, it's going to trigger your partner.
Yep.
And then we get stuck in a cycle, right? So we help you with all of that internally first, and then we were working together to bring you two together as a team to make sure that the couple sessions that we have are super powerful and transformational and really move the needle far.
Yeah. So it's a healing journey, and it's not for the faint of heart or people who are just hoping to kick back and like just do an hour a week kind of thing.
Of talking and then have things better. No.
Yeah. No. So it really requires a fair bit of commitment, a good bit of commitment to your relationship, being all in or as close as you can be right now to wanting to fix things, being serious about making it work. Usually that means you've been together somewhere around 5 years, but give or take, right? You also need to be able to commit at least 2.5 hours a week to be successful in the work and the program that we do.
This is an intensive for a reason. We want to help you get like serious changes quickly, which means staying in engagement with the work, prioritizing and centering your relationship, building those neural pathways, those new patterns, learning those new dance steps, and just really building and keeping momentum. So if you're not serious about fixing your relationship and like really diving in, being all in and doing that work and figuring out how to find time for 90 days to really be in it so that you can have an easier time for the rest of your life.
Yep.
Right? Then it's not the right program for you.
Yep. Maybe therapy.
Right.
Sorry. That's a slam.
So you also, in addition to being committed, you have to be really courageous.
Yes.
Transformation asks you to move outside of your comfort zone, to lean into resistance, to face fear and vulnerability, to do things you're not good at and maybe that you don't necessarily trust yet are going to work or get you the results that you want. And all of that takes tremendous courage, my friend. I don't know that you can grow and really experience change and healing without courage. So, but we don't want to, pretend like it's always a comfortable or easy or smooth process. It takes effort, it takes energy, and it takes really bringing the courage. You got to show up in that courage and love. And if you do, we know that this program will not only transform your relationship, it's going to transform your entire life. Because that's what it does. That's what it did for us. That's what it does for the people that we work with.
Yeah.
So this is a $5,888 investment
per couple.
And all you have to do is send us a DM with "I'm ready," and we will send you the form to apply. So tune in next week, Friday at 2:30 for episode 4 of our Managing Triggers series. Please comment, share. We'd love to know how you're doing in this. And thank you for caring enough about yourself and your relationship to tune in.
Yeah. See you for part 4.